Dive into the newscast with our top focus on Iran, as Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has said that Iran might enrich uranium up to 60% purity if the country needed to do so, adding that Iran would never yield to American pressure over its nuclear program. Iran's 2015 nuclear deal with 6 powers, which it has been reaching since the United States withdrew in 2018, caps the purity to which Tehran can refine uranium at 3.67%. This is well under the 20% achieved before the agreement and far below the 90% needed for a nuclear weapon. Upping the ante with President Joe Biden, Khamenei said that Iran's uranium enrichment level will not be limited to 20%, and they will increase it to whatever level the country needs.
Iran's uranium enrichment level will not be limited to 20%. We will increase it to whatever level the country needs. For example, for a nuclear propulsion or other works, we may increase enrichment up to 60%. If there is a need for it, we will act on it.
U.S. has reacted to the threat, saying that the comments were hypothetical and posturing. U.S. State Department spokesman reiterated the willingness of the U.S. to talk with Iran about returning to the 2015 nuclear deal. Iran has resumed enrichment to 20% in a bid to heap pressure on the United States. Iran and America have been at loggerheads with Washington over which side should take the initial step to revive the accord. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that Washington intended to bolster and extend the 2015 pact, which aimed to limit Iran's enrichment potential, a possible pathway to atomic bombs in exchange for lifting most of the sanctions.
The United States remains committed to ensuring that Iran never acquires a nuclear weapon. Diplomacy is the best path to achieve that goal. President Biden has said, if Iran comes back into strict compliance with the JCPOA, the United States is prepared to do the same. Working with allies and partners, we will also seek to lengthen and strengthen the JCPOA and address other areas of concern, including Iran's destabilizing regional behavior and ballistic missile development and proliferation. And Iran must comply with its safeguards agreements with the IAEA and its other international obligations.
Now, these comments come after the UN watchdog on Sunday reached a deal with Iran that would allow it to continue monitoring activities for a period of up to 3 months. Also, let's listen into what the Associated Press diplomatic writer had to say about the current developments with regards to Iran. Let's listen in.
You can make the case, I suppose, that it was not the worst case scenario. The Iranians didn't completely withdraw and cut off all cooperation with the UN. But at the same time, the amount of access that the IAEA has now to Iran's nuclear sites is less than it was just a week ago before the Biden administration started making its overtures to the Iranians. But it's a little bit of a kind of, who goes first here? Who comes back into compliance first? What needs to be done? And I think that's going to be a main point if and when this meeting ever happens. That's going to be one of the main topics of discussion is which country decides to make the first move if in fact they intend or want to try to go back to resurrecting the nuclear deal.
We're joined in by our guest, Mir Javed Anfar, who's a West Asia analyst and is joining us live from Tel Aviv with more details. Let's quickly go across to Mir. Mir, thank you for joining our broadcast today. Now, we just heard what Associated Press diplomatic writer Matthew Lee had to say, and let me highlight that again for you. He says one of the main topics of discussion is which country decides to make the first move, if in fact they intend or want to even try to go back to resurrecting the nuclear deal. Isn't that truly a bone of contention now, since Biden has already refused to lift sanctions for talks?
It is a bone of contention. Look, for the Iranian side, the Iranians feel that they were wronged because President Trump first broke the nuclear deal by walking out of it. And then Iran also broke the nuclear deal afterwards. But first it was the United States. So they feel that it's the United States that should return to the nuclear deal, and the concern by Iran's ruling authorities is that if if they take the first step, then they would be showing weakness, and as a result, they could be exploited. This weakness could be exploited in future talks with the United States. So they are very hesitant to take the first step. At the same time, the Biden administration, although it took some initial steps recently of allowing, for example, Iran's ambassadors in UN to have more freedom of movement, they are also concerned that if they show too much hand, if they take a first major step towards Iran, then that could lead to U.S. allies in the region becoming concerned that the U.S. is giving away too much, and also weakening America's hand, because it seems that America wants to expand the deal. So it's a question of leverage, and it seems neither side wants to reduce its own leverage by taking the first step.
Right, Mir, at the same time, the Iranian parliament has passed a law that demanded 20% enrichment. The law also obliges the Rouhani administration to limit international nuclear inspections from today. At the same time, Iran and the global nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, have agreed to temporary measures. Will these measures offset Iran's decision to restrict access to inspectors? And is this just temporary relief?
That really depends. I mean, it's 3 months, these measures. What will happen as part of these measures is that in Iran's major enrichment centers, there are cameras which film what's happening in these centers, and the film is taken away. So according to the new agreement, apparently the cameras can film, but the IAEA can't take the film away to analyze if Iran is cheating or not. 3 months, maybe the IAEA can live with that for 3 months. Will they be willing to live with the restrictions more than 3 months? It's not clear. And it's also not clear whether the Iranians are willing to wait yet another 3 months to see if Biden's going to remove the sanctions. I think this is just a temporary measure to allow to see what can be achieved in the next 3 months. Am I optimistic that a deal can be reached in that time? I'm not so optimistic, but we have to wait and see. The both sides for now know that.
Right. Thank you so much, Mir, for bringing in your precious inputs.